Welcome to the City Manager's Report. The City Manager's Report is your preview of the next Oshkosh Common Council meeting agenda and an update from your Oshkosh City Manager. Your hosts, Emily Mikowski of Oshkosh Community Media and City Manager Mark Roloff.
Joining us on your City Manager's Report, your source for all things local Oshkosh hot topics here in town, as well as a preview for the upcoming City Council meeting agenda. I'm your host, Emily Mikowski, joined as always by your City Manager, Mark Roloff. So as always, Mark, thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to be here, Emily.
So we're going to go ahead and dive into our hot topics for the day. We've got a lot to talk about. Take a little break and then return with a review of the City Council meeting agenda for Tuesday, October 28th, 2014. So Mark, first item on our list here is a pretty positive item. Oshkosh was recently recognized as a Wisconsin Smart Fleet. We're at the 1-star level, which means that we're really progressive in what's going on with CNG, hybrid vehicles. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm really excited. It shows that we've made a commitment to alternative fuels. It really started with our hybrid buses a few years back and then converted to compressed natural gas when we started to go to automated refuse a few years ago. We changed our first fleet of refuse trucks into those. So some of the federal money that was available in 2010 started to provide money for alternative fuel vehicles. That's where we got 4 hybrid buses. So the green buses that you see going around town, those are the ones that are our electric buses. If you ride those buses, very quiet ride. So in addition to being very good for the environment. So that was the beginning of it. But then as we had discussions about switching our refuse fleet over, we started to take a look at it and realized that CNG vehicles were becoming very popular with refuse trucks because of the frequency that you fill those up. You really fill them up once a day, so you can make a whole 8-hour shift without having to refuel. So the garbage trucks were the next ones, and then we started taking a look at, well, what other things are out there? And we discovered there's a lot of different vehicles. So all the vehicles you see here are CNG vehicles that we are now making use of. You can kind of see the telltale sign of that little rectangular box that goes up and down. Most of the fleet vehicles, like you see where 819 is, that box is where the compressed natural gas is. So if you see those vehicles out on the road, you'll know that we're going with CNG. And we're real happy. In addition to being good for the environment, it really is economically a very good deal for us. If you've noticed, the pump price of CNG is about right now about 60 to 70%, and that's actually higher than what it's been recently. But it's down to about $1.69 a gallon versus the pump price of over $3 a gallon for regular gasoline, and even more for diesel. So it's a great alternative and very cost-effective for us.
Kind of a win-win situation in that case.
Absolutely.
And so for future incentives, you're saying hopefully refuse and recycling in the future for that.
We need to get a backup vehicle for our recycling fleet, and then a few years down the road, we're going to need to replace those. We replace those every 7 to 9 years. So we're going to start seeing a replacement of the recycling fleet, and then we'll switch over from diesel to CNG. We've had a very good experience with our refuse trucks, and I don't see any reason why we wouldn't continue.
Excellent. Well, we're really excited about this 1-star level, so there's always room for improvement to get up to that 5-star level. We do have a hot topic on the city website right now if you're looking to learn more about the Smart Fleet Wisconsin program. Just go ahead and click on those links. You'll see our profile, and you can also learn more about the program in general. So Mark, next up here is some Sam's Club plans. A little bit of talk on social media I've seen, a lot of different reactions. There's been a little bit of talk about the mine shaft, that there was a possibility of that coming there. What's the history of this item? What's going on with that?
Well, I know a lot of people are familiar with the Mine Shaft restaurant in Hartford. It's the biggest restaurant in the state, and those folks had been looking into locating another restaurant here in addition to their Mine Shaft restaurant, and they purchased the property right there in Aviation Plaza on Keller between 20th and South Park. They purchased it about a year ago, and I'm not aware that they're not interested in Oshkosh anymore, but I think Sam's Club must have made them a deal they couldn't refuse, and apparently there's in discussions. I don't know all the details, but I suspect the Sam's Club made an offer that's contingent upon certain approvals that need to come from the city. But the location has been the old Walmart site, which has been vacant for 10 years now. So it was in much need of redevelopment, and so we're excited that that something is going there. Obviously, I think when a major retailer like Walmart makes a commitment for one of their clubs locations, they think that there's enough with our demographics that are going to draw people. So we're excited that we've reached a level that has captured their eyes and their attention.
And now this specific area has been a location of redevelopment over the years. Will this new addition receive any kind of public assistance?
No, not at all. When we had discussions with Sam's Club before they filed their application, they indicated they would not be seeking any public assistance. And I assume that the Mineshaft folks, although we don't know what their plans are, I haven't spoken with them in well over 6 months, they'll be looking at some other location. We were only talking about public assistance here for a special redevelopment project. A basic big box retailer like Sam's Club probably wouldn't meet that criteria anyway. So we're happy that they're here, and we're also happy that public assistance wasn't necessary. Private market's working in that case.
Yes, and another thing everyone was saying on social media is they're happy they don't have to go all the way to Appleton anymore. So they're saving themselves that trip up there. So we're looking forward to seeing what happens here in the future in that redevelopment area.
There you go.
Our next item, a big topic coming up next week, is the budget. We've been previewing it the past few episodes. What expectations do we have? You're actually recommending a pretty high tax increase. What's with that?
Yeah, that's true. Well, there were a lot of discussions over what the framework of the budget was going to be. And there's really two big components that are contributing to this. One is our continuing debt, which is a result of our investment in street infrastructure, getting our streets done. So that's a portion of that. There was also some refinancing, getting rid of a long-term liability that we've had on the books for over 50 years with the Wisconsin retirement system. We wanted to get rid of that liability. The interest rates are so low right now, and our financial advisors were recommending that we do that. And then the other half is with respect to employee benefits. Our health insurance we're still experiencing a lot of increases, and we're looking at an increase of about 12% in health insurance costs. So that's about $1 million. So about $1 million with additional debt costs, and $1 million with additional health insurance costs. That's the bulk of our increase for 2014 or 2015. What that means in terms of the tax rate, we're looking at a tax increase of about 4.5% in the local levy, and that's much greater than I'd anticipated. I don't think council was expecting that. So that's something that, in order to meet those two competing needs there, that's why we have right now targeted a 4.5% increase.
Mm-hmm. So with that increase, dealing with the health insurance and the debt service, what other alternatives are there when we're looking at this issue?
Well, last year, council struggled with a lot of different, very tough policy decisions, and I made some recommendations on service cuts. And when we're talking about service cuts, we are essentially a service organization, very high in personnel. 75% of our whole budget in the general fund is personnel. And in the police and fire departments, it's 95%. So if you're talking about cutting cost, you're talking about cutting personnel. That's really where it comes down to. So I've got some budget cuts possible that are on a list that we're providing council. They've already seen it, and they're looking at that right now. And we've identified what it would do with the tax levy, so the council can take a look at that. And if they want to get that tax increase down, which I suspect they will, but I want to give them the opportunity to weigh the different alternatives and show them what the impact would be. They want to get a target, they can start working towards that target. But it's that challenge. People don't want to see service cuts. People want to see a greater investment in our infrastructure. But at the same time, while those in our surveys have said we want more infrastructure, we want to maintain a lot of these services like police and fire and snow removal and library, they also say we want our taxes to be low too. So we're going to be struggling with that, and I think
competing forces a little bit.
they really are. And so I think council is going to have to struggle with that issue and seek public input on that. So we've got a lot of workshops coming up. I really encourage the public to take a look at the workshops, look at our old workshops, which are still on OCMS, and draw your own conclusions and provide input into where our priorities should be for upcoming budgets.
Yes, and one last question on that is if there are any fees and charges going to be planned for in this budget process?
Not many changes in fees and charges. Storm sewer is probably the only one, but you've got plenty of time to provide input. We've got budget workshops coming up next Wednesday and Thursday, October 29th and 30th at 5 p.m. We'll also have a workshop on Wednesday, November 5th at 5 p.m. That'll primarily be our capital improvement program, but those are going to be the ones we already have scheduled. Council's talking about maybe even one more, because these are tough issues that Council's going to have looking for. So we'll see where we go next with those, and look forward to getting some public input on where we go with the budget.
Yes, and we can watch all of these meetings on City Cable 10 as well as OshkoshCommunityMedia.org. And also next week is the county budget, so we'll be very busy here at OCMS covering that on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, 27th, 28th, and 29th. Those are all going to be live on City Cable 10 and streamed live online. So make sure you just check it out. It'll also be replayed. Check out our schedule. And as Mark said, check out the workshops, because I think you can learn a lot from watching those preliminary discussions.
No, absolutely. I think the more that you learn about this, the more you're going to be able to make a more informed opinion on it and provide input to the city council. They do value the input, because that's essentially how they can make these decisions. They try to make informed decisions, and they want the public to be informed as well.
Definitely. And another, segues nicely into our next topic is early voting. Get out there and vote. It's going on through October 31st. So it's actually looking pretty busy here at City Hall already, too.
Already, there's a very short window, and October 31st seems like an early deadline, but Election Day is Tuesday, November 4th, so the Friday before the election is when we're required by law to stop the early voting. So if you've got another week and a half at best to get out there and do early voting, of course, you can always vote on Tuesday, November 4th. But if you're going to be out of town or you're going to be busy, occupied that day, you can certainly come in. And this is just a random shot that our OCMS folks were able to take just out there one day. So it is busy at the city clerk's counter. You know, some people, you might actually be better off just waiting until election day, quite honestly. But if you want to swing by, if you're in the neighborhood and you want to do early voting, please do it. We want people to vote. That's part of your civic responsibility, so we encourage you to do it.
Yes, and you can find all your polling places and sample ballots too on the city website under the city clerk's departments page. So get out there, we're open, and next Friday the 31st is the final date for early voting. Our next item, Mark, is just another reminder, leaf pickup. We talked about it last week. It's getting a little cooler out, so I'm sure the leaves are starting to drop a little faster. Just making sure people get those out on their terrace, and we don't have a final deadline. It tends to vary a little bit.
It began a week ago, and it formally right now will continue through the 31st, but we know that from history that the leaves will continue to fall. Our leaf trucks also double as snow pickup trucks, so we have to be ready for when the snow flies. So if it looks like the snow's starting to fly, we're going to stop doing leaf pickup.
Quick transition there.
So we'll keep you posted on how things are going. Take a look at our website, social media, and see where we're going. But the big thing is, please don't rake your leaves into the street. We're totally capable of picking it up off the terrace. It's safer that way, so please don't rake them into the street. We'll get them there the day after your regular refuse pickup day. So get them out there the day after. Just rake them out there the night before, or on garbage day after you take the garbage out, put the leaves out there, and we'll take care of them the next day.
Yes, and I can't believe it's already the end of October, Mark. It's just scary to think that.
Budget, voting, leaves, it's fall.
A lot going on. It's fall. So that's going to wrap up the first half of our show. We're going to go ahead and take a look at Question Mark for this week, where viewers have the chance to ask their city manager, Mark Roloff, anything they want about things that are going on here in the city. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Question Mark for this week. right, Mark, so we're talking about fall. Perfect question for our conversation here. What are the Halloween trick-or-treat hours? We get this question every year.
We always get this question. Trick-or-treat, fortunately, with Halloween being on a Friday, it makes it pretty easy. It's going to be Friday, October 31st, 5 to 7 p.m. When it's during the weekday, we normally have it from 5 to 7. So plan to get out there. It'll be plenty dark at 5 o'clock, so you can be safe watching for everything out on the street. But only 5 to 7 p.m. and the roll-offs will have candy out, so don't worry about us. We'll have our light on for you.
Yes, and it'll hopefully be beautiful weather, we're hoping as well. So yes, 5 to 7, October 31st on Friday. So that is our question for this question mark. If you'd like to send a question to Mark, you can simply email it to questionmark@ci.oshkosh.wi.us, and he'll answer it on the next episode of CMR. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll dive into the City Council meeting agenda for this Tuesday, October 28th. We'll be right back on City Manager's Report.
Stay connected with Oshkosh Community Media Services and the City of Oshkosh. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube. Sign up for e-updates. More resources, including video, at OshkoshCommunityMedia.org. Oshkosh Community Media is your media on your schedule. Connect with us today.
Want to know what's happening in local government? Stay in the know with City of Oshkosh government meetings, live on TV, City Cable 10, online at OshkoshCommunityMedia.org, and on Community Radio WOCT 101.9 FM. Miss the live coverage? No problem. Catch replays on City Cable 10. Stream online from OshkoshCommunityMedia.org or visit youtube.com/Oshkosh Community Media Services.
Welcome back to your City Manager's Report. Again, thank you for joining us. And now it's that time of the show. We're going to go ahead and dive into the City Council meeting agenda for this Tuesday, October 28th, 2014. Now, Mark, the first item that we want to discuss is a consent agenda item, award bid for Public Works contract to do some sedimentation basin contract repairs. And it's actually 7 and 8 on the agenda here, but what exactly is this dealing with?
Well, there's a lot of improvements that you don't necessarily see behind the scenes at the water filtration plant because it's largely closed to the public.
Right.
We had done an expansion of the water filtration plant, a modernization back in 1999. These are some areas that weren't necessarily taken care of back then, and it's just equipment. The sedimentation basin is really where you get particles that you get taken out of the water as part of our cleaning process, and then just basically piping repairs that we need. All told, those two improvements are going to cost us over $400,000, but this is what we're committed to make sure that you have clean, safe, reliable water source. And so behind the scenes, we're doing that every single day.
And it's one of those projects that it's kind of like the Central Garage, except it's behind the scenes, that they're still doing work out there while this stuff's going on. So it's one of those processes that you got to do in chunks too.
Yeah, it takes time to get projects like this done because we still have to get the sedimentation, the sediments out of your water, and you need a sedimentation basin. So we do it in phases so that we're constantly providing water service. And you try to do it off season, not in a high water demand season, so that we're going to be okay for our ability to deliver water on a reliable basis.
Excellent. Well, great to know. Our next item is dealing with the Marion Road Water Tower. Now, there's a couple different issues with this. One is that well, it's replacing the Marion Road water tower, and some people are worried that it's a little bit unsightly, and then the other side is that they want something to stand out. So what exactly is going on with this, Mark?
Well, you framed it very well because everybody has an opinion, and those opinions are wonderful, but when they're in conflict, there is always a challenge. The old water tower there was built in the 1930s. It's really reached the end of its useful life, so we need to replace it. Some people have asked, well, it really isn't in a good place. When it was built 75 years ago, it was in an industrial area. It made perfect sense to have it there. But now, why do we need it there? Well, we still need a water tower in the downtown area because water towers provide you with pressure, and pressure is really needed for fire flow. Mostly, more than anything. We've got good storage capacity. We could do storage in many places, but it's really the fire flow that you need. So you need a water tower nearby to maintain good, powerful fire flows. And where are the tallest buildings in Oshkosh? Well, they're downtown. So you still need good fire flow for everything we have.
That's something you don't really consider when you're thinking about.
No, but that's why we have firefighters and water people that do these wonderful things. They think about that all the time.
Yeah, so how is this issue going to be resolved then? Where does that decision get made?
Well, ultimately, we need to locate it in the downtown area. The other issue is there are some folks who think we should have a decorative or historical looking or some type of landmark feature or some type of design to the water tower. And that can be done. Of course, anytime you put an additional design on it, it costs more money. And with our water rates rising as it has, I mean, we had a nearly 20% increase in our water rates. You have to ask yourself the question, do you really want to spend more money on something like that? I know there's an element of pride, community pride that goes with that, but you also have people that don't want it to be seen at all. So do you make it very visible that one group of people wants or very invisible that another group of people wants? The reality is we got to go somewhere in between and be fiscally responsible at the same time. So we will ultimately have to bring this to council for a final decision, but those are the debates that are going to happen in the coffee shops and taverns in town, and council will eventually hear those things, but those are the two competing issues that we're going to have before us.
Okay, so looking forward to having more updates on that at future council meetings. Our next items, a couple of them, one right after the other, one a bond issue for sewer borrowings and another for water borrowing. What exactly are these for, Mark?
These are our annual borrowings for each of our utilities, the sewer and the water utilities. A lot of these projects have already been underway. We got approval to begin spending before we got the borrowing, but we do need to replenish our cash supply to make up for the spending that we're doing. It's the improvements to the treatment plants. It's the improvements underground to all the sewer utilities. And we're taking advantage of some very favorable bond rates. The last meeting we had our bond issue, and our 10-year borrowing was under 1.7%. So some great rates out there right now that we're taking full advantage of. I know that we're spending a lot of money, and it does impact water and sewer rates eventually. And we had sizable increases, but I want to assure everybody that we're doing our very best to make sure that we're doing good improvements at the best possible cost.
And our bond rating is still pretty good?
Yeah, we're still a AA3.
Okay.
That's amongst the highest that you can get. We're probably the lowest of the highest, but we're still in very good stead, and we're very proud that we maintained our bond rating of AA3. So that helps us borrow at a much lesser cost, and we're taking advantage of the market being the way it is and borrowing at the time we are now.
Excellent. So we'll look forward to seeing this at the upcoming City Council meeting agenda. Our next item here is approving some funding for a marketing program for the Greater Oshkosh Economic Development Committee. What exactly is this for? It's dealing with marketing, but what exactly for?
Well, as part of the development of Greater Oshkosh Economic Development Corporation, also known as GoEDC, we are developing a marketing plan, and part of that is we have to develop a brand that people can identify with to make Oshkosh more aware, make it higher awareness for people looking at Oshkosh. And also, website presence is essential to.
It's huge.
In economic development right now, it's about the only thing. Old-fashioned advertising in trade magazines isn't as effective as it once was. It's really getting the website. So our $25,000 contribution will go towards helping develop that brand as well as the website. GoEDC has identified a firm to begin that process, and once we have our first chief executive officer and our marketing person on board, then we're going to work on implementing these things as soon as possible.
Okay, and so this specific project will really kind of fall to that marketing person once they do, come around.
They'll be the primary point of contact with this contractor to get that done, and then that person will be out there, beating the bushes to encourage people to come to Oshkosh.
Yes, well, it's great to see all of the, forward thinking we've got going on with the GoEDC, and we're looking forward to seeing what else you guys can do. Up next here, a group of items here under new resolutions, all dealing with the Aviation Business Park and Cluster Study. What are all of these about, Mark?
Well, it's a series of
Give
things.
us a little rundown here.
Sure. Well, first off, I think a lot of people are aware that we've done a cluster study with all of our economic development partners, and we've identified some targeted industries, one of which is aviation. And with the cutbacks at Oshkosh Corporation, we received a grant from the federal government, Department of Defense, to do a variety of things, one of which is taking a look at the aviation cluster. And the aviation industry has a lot of different segmentations, and we've hired a firm to assist us in filling our aviation business park.
Yes.
And the idea is to what niche industries within aviation itself we want to target. And so we started this study with just the greater Oshkosh area, but with the Department of Defense, they recognize that the economic impact goes wider than just the Oshkosh area. It really goes to all of East Central Wisconsin. So the first agreement is to go with to continue our relationship with East Central and the Department of Defense to do additional cluster study for our aviation business park. And then we have to add both Fond du Lac County and Outagamie County to that area because we're looking at a much larger area, not just the Oshkosh area.
Right.
So one for Fond du Lac, one for Outagamie County. And then the firm that we hired to do our aviation cluster study, Explorer Solutions, another contract amendment with them to add these areas to the study. And of course, the agreements we have with Fond du Lac and Outagamie, they're going to completely reimburse us for whatever match we're required to have under the grant. So the city will be made whole as part of this whole thing. And then finally, another agreement with someone who's going to maintain the project here at home and administer the project that we're using related to aviation business park development as well as the cluster study. So one topic, 5 different action items by the council. It shows you that we're very committed to working on the aviation cluster and attracting people to Oshkosh to expand industry and create good paying jobs for our community.
And what would you say is the number one thing that they're looking at with this aviation cluster study?
It's so amazing that there are a lot of different ones, and the group hasn't decided yet. We've talked about some different processes in aviation that I'm not even qualified to tell you what those are. I'm not trying to be coy about it. Another one is basic maintenance. That's another one that they've looked at. I understand basic maintenance. So those are the types of niches that they're looking at. And so we're taking a look at those, and we'll eventually decide from amongst those which one we really want to hone in on and use as our primary purpose for attracting people to our aviation business park.
Wonderful. Well, a lot going on in that area, and we're really excited to hear what's upcoming with that. And we are just about out of time here on City Manager's Report. So, Mark, as always, thank you so much for joining us.
Been a pleasure.
Again, the City Council meeting, the City Council meeting is this Tuesday, October 28th at 6 p.m. You can watch it live on City Cable 10 and on our website, oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. You can also listen to it on 101.9 WOCT, which is also now online, and on the TuneIn Radio app for mobile devices. Don't forget, if you do have a question for Mark, you can send it to question@ci.oshkosh.wi.us, and he'll answer it on the next episode of City Manager's Report. So as always, thank you so much for joining us on City Manager's Report, and we'll see you next time.